Hi there, it's Trevor Davis from Our Father's House. And we've just been talking a little bit about Moses and the work of faith coming out of Hebrews 11 and understanding the challenges that he went through, which were incredible challenges. I mean, this man was set to rule over in place and alongside Pharaoh. Incredible thing that he gave up to be able to fulfill what was the call of God upon his life. I want to carry on there for a minute because we begin to see that once Moses got to that point, he now, as we've seen, he was called of God. He was commissioned of God. He went in and saw the people of God being oppressed, afflicted, beaten up. And then he moved himself out of Pharaoh's house to stand with the people of God, getting ready for deliverance. But did deliverance come? It didn't come straight away. But actually there's a period of time here from the time that he was ready to go, and he had already told the people about the aspect that God was going to bring them into their land or their promised land. God had something for them. So what happened followed all of that? Well, the rulers of the land, which was Pharaoh in this instance, resisted that. In other words, he wasn't going to let them go. So he put them to harder work. He kept them locked in, determining that they weren't going to happen. So, and just very, very quickly, because you can read through this, you find that there's 10 plagues that followed this, which hardened the heart until the 10th one of Pharaoh to stop the people of God being let go. You remember the cry was, let my people go. Moses, let my people go. Pharaoh, let my people go. And here we see the 10 different plagues that went through the land. I want you to understand this. This was not a pulling out of God's people and then God dealing with this. This was they had to live through this. The people of God who knew that deliverance had come and knew that Moses was going to be a deliverer was standing before them. They talked about all of these things. They understood the ways and the purposes of God. And then what happened? The water was turned to blood. The frogs came out, a plague of frogs across the whole of the land. There was lice and everything through all of the cattle, through all of the people. Lice, a plague of lice, a plague of flies upon the livestock. It was all these things, a plague upon them. A plague of boils upon people. It can be on animals. A plague. These are plagues. This is massive proportions of things that were going on. There was incredible downpour of hail. It brought incredible destruction. Locusts that went through the land, destroyed all of the crops. There was darkness that came across the whole of the land of Egypt. I mean, all of these things they had to sit through until it came to a final plague, if you like, when God said, well, okay, the firstborn of every household will now be killed at midnight tonight. I want you to think about midnight. Midnight, which we're living in today. Midnight. Is this a darkened hour? It's becoming a darkened hour across Christendom. But it's also the day which the light shines the greatest, and that's you and I. So I don't want you to concentrate on that, but to see that this is now the time of deliverance. So what was happening now is that there came darkness over the whole land. There was an aspect of this that is very important to understand, and Exodus chapter 11 and verse 3, to pick out one or two verses here, but it tells us here about midnight, I will go through the land of Egypt, and all the firstborn of the land of Egypt shall die. The firstborn of Pharaoh that sits upon the throne, even the firstborn of the maidservants and so on. So the firstborn of every person, every animal, everything else in the land was going to die at midnight. This was God doing something now to cause Pharaoh to release his people, that they might go to where God wanted them to do. So what did God say now to Moses? This is what he said. This is in verses 1 through to 7, chapter 12. He said, speak to all of the congregation. And what did he tell them to do? He tells them to come and to gather in the house. Come and to gather in their houses. That's a word for today. Come and gather in our houses, whether it be your life group or your church in the house, or whether it be your local church. Come into a place of gathering. Why? Because that's where God is going to protect us from the things that are going on outside in the world. The darkness that comes over, death is coming across the land. So he said there's a place of protection, there's a place to be kept. Come into the house. That was the first thing. The second thing he said was to take a lamb into the house. And then to take the lamb and it was to be shed and then it was to be eaten between them all. And he said, take the blood and put the blood on the doorposts of the hand. That's the blood, that's the covering. That's the same with us today. The blood that covers us, the blood that covers his church. It keeps us from the things of the world. And he said, and when the death angel comes through the land to destroy and to take the firstborn, wherever I see the blood as a covering, there will be no death. But the protection had to be inside the house. So if you were outside the house, ignored all of this, then the firstborn of your home was also going to be taken. It's important to understand that, because there's so many truths here that that could apply to you and to my life today. So then we say that the death angel goes through the land, and the blood here is the protection. In verses 29-33 of chapter 12, he said, at midnight the Lord smote the firstborn of the land. And then there came a great cry in Egypt. Now the people are crying out, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses. Pharaoh called for Moses, and to Aaron by night he said, rise up and go forth from among this people. You and all of the children of Israel, go. Go and serve the Lord. And so they did. And so they went, and that was their exit. That was their time of deliverance. But oh, what an incredible aspect of challenge that became for them and their lives as well. We begin to see and understand that these are the challenges that they had to face. These are the challenges that you and I have to face. Can I say something about this today? Can I encourage you today, if you are out of fellowship in the things that pertain to the things of God, the people of God, I encourage you to find a place of fellowship that you might be together where the blood of Christ is protecting and keeping you. It's going to be his house in the days ahead. Coming back again to Matthew 16, I'll build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail. What goes on in the world, you and I, as it was in the days of Moses, you and I are protected from the things that go on, but the basis of our strength and our encouragement and our strength is going to come from being together in the house of God. And what should be going on in the house of God is the shedding of the blood. So that's the communion, the sharing of the blood, the remembering of the blood, remembering the blood that was shed of Christ, the Lamb of God, taketh away the sins of the world. It's the place of remembrance. It's the place of teaching. It's the place of understanding the word. It's the place of fellowship where we fellowship together. It's the place of testimony where we come together. Out of all of that, we're strengthened as we get ready for the time of deliverance that's coming to the house of God in a tremendous way. So God bless you as you consider these few thoughts about Moses' life and his journey of faith as he sought to bring deliverance to the children of Israel. I trust this has been helpful to you. I trust there's some thoughts here that you can apply to your life. Can I encourage you to send this on to somebody else? Send us an email. Love to hear from you. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, share that as well. And then click on subscribe and you'll know the next one is on its way. That's the snippets. So God bless you. Have a tremendous day.